Get ready to take a look behind the scenes and enter the impossible for the Between Two Minds podcast with our hosts, Judge Mentalist and Bernardo Rodriguez. Can they really tell you what you're thinking?
What up? I guess we do that again.
Yeah, that's how we normally start these. Hey, everybody. It's Judge Mentalist and Bernardo Rodriguez. This time,
Reversing.
As the audio on the intro suggests, we are both here, but we are doing another Performing Hypnosis Summit preview interview, except I'm now the interviewee.
Yes.
I found it incredibly appropriate to have you be the interviewer.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. I've been kind of peeking at some of the interviews that have come through. While I don't do hypnosis, there's definitely a lot to learn in other aspects of the magic community, so it's pretty tight. But to kick it off a little bit, I guess you spoke at this event last year, right? Was that the first time they've done this?
So that was last year was the second year of PHS, but it was the first year where they opened it up to the live component. So 2 years ago, it was online only. It was not on my radar. I had nothing to do with or any involvement in. I wasn't an attendee year one. I wasn't a presenter year one. All of this started year two for me. Last year was fantastic. And not only are we going to talk about my talk, but really I'm going to use this as yet another opportunity to say great things about why, if for whatever reason, because this thing starts in 3 days, and if you're going to any of the pre-conference stuff, it starts tomorrow.
Oh, God.
It's kind of, I don't even know if they're selling live registrations at this point in time, but you still can get most of the talks if you sign up for the live stream, remote version. And I can guarantee you, because the folks who are running this thing are great, they're amazing, that if for whatever reason they've pulled down the ability for you to purchase the in-person, purchase the live, get on a plane, get to Vegas, I'm sure they'll let you in. Even if they make you pay a little extra for whatever it is. I don't know if they've taken the online, the in-person down, but there is so much value. There was so much value year one. Terry Stokes was there as the keynote last year. He's a legend in the hypnosis world. Kevin Lapine, always so generous with his time, not just at his show and after his show in general, but also at PHS, and just a wealth of information. And since we've got, Bernardo, a mentalist, on here, we'll talk about something that I've talked a lot about in all these, or many of these interviews, most of these interviews, is the value to any mystery art performer in what's offered at Performing Hypnosis Summit. And I feel the need to keep reiterating this difference and this value, because when you go to a magic conference, what do you expect?
I expect a bunch of people to gather around and jam in a circle, and you may or may not go to some of the lectures.
All right. So somebody that's not you, who half the time doesn't even buy the ticket to the convention and just shows up and hangs out with people. But if you were actually attending a magic convention, what does that look like to you? What do these sessions look like? And I'm not talking about the after hours jamming and stuff like that.
Yeah, so typically you get a schedule of lectures throughout the day. So you kind of pick and choose, because sometimes I think 2 that I've been to have overlapped a little bit. So you almost get to decide between the ones you want to visit throughout the entire day. You get a lunch break, and that's really it. You get a show typically at the end of the day, and that's kind of it. You kind of figure out what knowledge fits you best. Most of the time, a lot of people go to a mall. So
and what kind of knowledge are you getting?
You're getting stuff like how to improve your performance, how to elevate the experience, sometimes how to book gigs. There's very few of those.
Very few of those, right?
There's typically one person that does it all the time. There's occasionally you'll find somebody talking about branding in the smaller ones, but I've only heard of that once, and that was at my invention this year. or last year. So,
but the vast majority of it is you're learning tricks, you're learning methods. Sometimes you're learning subtleties about how to do different magic and mentalism effects, right?
yeah.
Which, if you're a magician, is super valuable. But here, and why I have emphasized so much of this to performers who are not hypnotists, even though this convention is geared toward hypnosis, there's some, but very little teaching of, oh, hey, Capsman is logged in and is watching the stream. Welcome. We need to get connected so that we can do a show in your area for sure. So I think I've emailed you before. Please email me back because I'd love to figure out exactly where you are, come out and do a show for you. So here are some of the things that stand out to me. There's a talk on how to develop a website that's going to get you booked. There's a talk on automating your show. This is sound cues, light cues, video feeds, stuff that we're doing in our show, but really just the sound part of it. But if you've got light cues and sound cues, Jeff Bennick's going to teach how to integrate all of that stuff seamlessly. And hey, spoiler alert, because Jeff is such a great guy, and I know that Jeff is a great guy, and I am not stepping out of turn. If you attend Jeff's talk, he is most likely, I know he did last year, and again, I'll pay for it if I'm wrong about this year, he'll sit down with you and program your show with you.
Ooh.
And he doesn't charge you to do it. And if that's changed, I'll pay for it. Hopefully you're not listening, Jeff. Breaking into the most lucrative untapped hypnosis market in the US and Canada, which is weddings. But spoiler alert, there aren't enough magicians doing weddings in the States either.
There's almost none. Yeah, almost none.
Almost none. This is prominent. This is normal. This is every day in the UK. This is almost nothing in the US. Jason Callahan's going to give us the blueprint on how to do that. That blueprint very, very much will apply to almost any mystery art. Make your audience love you in 30 seconds or less, something that all magicians probably need.
Yeah.
Very few do. So I'm going to say that's great. Promote. I'm just reading these off of the name. How to use your hypnosis skills to present to corporate groups. You could just interplace hypnosis with magic. 7 stealth methods to close more gigs. Which non-hypnotist performers would love that? Oh, here's one that's actually about hypnotic trance. Maybe you won't use that one if you're not a hypnotist. Selling from the stage. How many of you magical performers, magicians or mentalists, have any merchandise or back of house sales? Okay, crickets. That's what I was expecting. This is of value to you. Stage presence in the 1-second inductions. Okay, so you're probably not going to want the inductions, but stage presence, super important. We'll skip my talk, which every single thing, I can guarantee you, every single thing in my How to Survive Year One as a Stage Hypnotist will apply to anybody booking gigs at all. Engaging your audience with Kevin Lapine.
He's been doing it for years, so that's
some of these. He's been headlining.
Yeah.
Show Promotion Basics by Jesse Lewis. That's an online one. Invest in yourself by getting involved. It's a little different in the magic world because it's clicky, but it's still very important stuff. Moving your show to the next level. I'm going through some of the online ones. Sprinkle in some mentalism, which is really more for hypnotists, but can apply because if you're a mentalist, you probably know a lot of that kind of stuff and you're just doing those. The only thing that actually matters, marketing. Comedy, hypno, GSD. And the GSD stands for Get Done. Yes, you do new original material. So if you want, this is so great for magicians because there's so many folks out there that are buying effects, learning the effects as marketed, and doing those effects.
Verbatim.
You don't have to. And there's talks here that are going to help with that. So much fantastic, amazing stuff for absolutely everybody. But I'm excited because, and you mentioned last year, which is great. It's super important to me to talk about last year when talking about this year's talk, because it was my first hypnosis convention and I didn't know what to expect. And at that point in time, I had done 15 or 20 shows maybe. And I'm sitting here thinking, I am so behind the curve. I am so, going to soak all of this up. Everybody knows so much more than me. And while there were fantastic and great presenters, I learned last year that most of the attendees that were not presenters had done none or only a few shows. My talk is geared toward those people. Now, there'll probably be different people by this year, but I expect there to be a big batch of folks that haven't done their first show or haven't done many shows. The large number, the unexpectedly to me, large number of performers, or not performers, hypnotists that hadn't done a show or had done one or two shows inspired this talk, because there are things that you should be doing and you shouldn't be doing, things that you should be avoiding that are going to help launch your career in that pivotal first year. Because most people, if you go a year and you struggle tremendously, you're going to burn out, quit, and do something else. And in my opinion, and I think that for any of the hypnotists that are in the room attending PHS, you'll probably feel the same way, or you should feel the same way, or maybe we'll help you get to the point where you feel the same way. This is the most fun thing that I've ever done. It's an absolute riot. Every show that I do, even the ones that aren't as good as the others, they're still better than and more fun, more rewarding, more entertaining than anything else I've ever done.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot as well to the amount of shows you have done in your first year. We're what, year and a half?
We're almost at 2 years, but yeah,
almost 2 years. And we've seen, definitely from your side, you've seen a lot of, the what can go wrong will go wrong. And I think there's a lot to be said about those, especially if you're going to be talking about some of those things, maybe.
There isn't as much. So it'll probably get brushed on as a side note, but in year 4, I plan on doing an entire talk about what can go wrong, will go wrong, and how to move forward.
We got the video evidence.
I don't think I personally, sure, could I put a lecture together based on what I currently have and some of the weird shit that we've experienced in shows? Yes. Do I want a better sample set and to pull more stuff out of it and do an even better and wackier? That's why I'm kind of planning it for year 4. Because I already know that I'm going to be talking about the blueprint that I have for fundraiser shows in year 3. That is the plan for year 3. So year 4 is going to be the Murphy's Law talk, so to speak.
So what do you plan to talk about this year then?
Well, I'm not going to give away too much of it, but it really falls into the baseline category of things that you should absolutely 100% be doing in that first year. That if you do half of what I do, you're going to have 20 plus shows under your belt in the first year. If you do half of what I was able to accomplish. And some of the talk is going to be about easier gigs and easier situations to approach. There's going to be a little bit of sprinkling of talk about the fundraiser shows. I'm not going to unveil the entire blueprint because that's a whole talk itself. But as far as who I approach and how I approach them and some of the baseline things that we do, because I'd say a third of our shows easily are fundraiser shows for various causes, nonprofits, school groups, or otherwise. it's extra rewarding and extra fulfilling to be able to do that. And spoiler alert, looking forward to promoting the talk that I'm likely to do at Heartland in April. And then I'll probably end up, I don't know what I'll do in Michigan this year. It'll either be this talk or the fundraiser talk. The years are kind of getting blended together.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Because what happened was, and this is a weird behind the scenes podcast, so we can kind of get into the weeds here. I had submitted the fundraiser talk to Heartland last year. And there was a snafu with the emails, and William reached out to me, called me, and was like, hey, I keep getting your email bouncing here. I'm trying to accept you or invite you to Heartland. And by that time, the whole Egypt thing had popped up, and I'm like, it's too close. I can't hop a time zone and then come back and then go all the way to Europe and then Egypt. Not this year. And then I have kind of a wonky schedule thing as of right now with the trial, because I'm a lawyer in my day job, as many people know, that will run up to the Friday of Heartland. So I never applied to Heartland this year, and Will reached out and said, hey, I want you to do this talk this year. And I'm like, okay, but here's the deal. Put me on Sunday because I may be late getting out there. And I don't, if the case resolves, which sometimes happens, 11th hour, I'll be out earlier. But that's going to be a game time decision as of the way that things are stacking up right now. So he had the proposal from the first year, which is why I'm doing the fundraiser talk at Heartland.
Nice.
And I'd say there's probably like a 95% chance I'm doing that talk there, because if I get slotted on the Sunday, which I think he's put me there, I don't anticipate a conflict. I should be able to get out there. But yeah, it's a whole raft of stuff that you can do to hit the ground running, start getting gigs. And it's important stuff that you need to be doing at every gig that's going to help you make more money. It's going to help you book more gigs. And it's not very much going to be tips that overlap what some of the other talks about booking gigs and booking better gigs are. So all of this stuff super valuable. All of these things are pieces to a bigger puzzle here to elevate and boost your career. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about some mistakes that I see people making, some missteps that we've made or I've made. And basically, I mean, there's one thing that I'm going to tell you to unequivocally not do ever. That's going to, just by listening to me on this one thing, will save you more money than the registration, your flight, if you're flying coach, and your hotel for the weekend. I'm going to save you all of that money in just this one talk with just one thing I'm going to tell you to absolutely avoid like the plague. And I'm going to button that up, and I'm going to leave that to be an absolute mystery until the talk.
Now, some people may hear some things if they've listened to our podcast on,
this
Apple,
isn't there, by the way.
Spotify. Yeah. But one thing that I'm curious is, does the word equipment mean anything to this? An Easter egg for anyone that's listening to our podcast in general.
It's not a big part of the talk.
Okay.
I will mention my preparation, I guess is what I call it now at shows. The number of times that I have gone to a venue, and if you have not listened, and many of these are audio, to the Between Two Minds Behind the Scenes podcast, which they're not all on YouTube or on Facebook if you're watching this.
Apple Music, all your podcast family.
But in a normal traditional podcast setting, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google doesn't do podcast anymore, whatever they are. We do a breakdown after every one of our shows and other scenarios. Like we've gone to lectures, or I did a breakdown after PHS last year, things like that. You've heard me talk about this before. I have a Bose speaker system. And look, if you want information about speaker systems and sound tech and everything that Jeff Bennick talked about automating your show, boy, oh boy, is that guy a pro. So he'll tell you the same stuff I tell you, but I've got this tiny little 14-pound Bose PA system that now, if I am doing a show, goes with me everywhere. And
lifesaver and a half.
I mean, I did an event at an awards banquet a couple months ago where they had a sound system because a lot of times you show up at a place and they tell you that, oh yeah, we got you, you're all set. And then you get there and you're like, wait, what? Hold on. Like we did the gig the first time I used this thing. We did the gig where they were like, yeah, there's sound and everything. And then we show up and we're like, hey, how do we hook into the sound system? Oh, the audio people aren't here. Mm-hmm. So did they lie to us? No. I asked them a question is, do you have a sound system? And the answer to that question was, of course, yes. I didn't ask the follow-up question of, will we be able to use it?
That worked out too. That was the first time we brought it just in case, and it ended up being we needed it. Like there was no, we kind of needed something. We had no other option.
But I did this banquet a couple months back where while they're doing their speeches and their talks and their awards and all the stuff that they're doing, I keep hearing this like crackling and everything in the audio, and I'm like, that ain't gonna fly. What did I have with me? I had my system. Boom, done. I know how it works. I know how to set it. I can set this thing up in seconds, really. Everything's all ready to link to it. Boom, clean. I have clean audio for the rest of my show. And it was what I wanted. We had the situation at the Rochester Fringe, which I'm sure we've talked about on a previous podcast, where they had sufficient audio setup, but it was running through an HDMI that was also linked up to the projector because I was performing in an old movie theater. And if I wanted to run my sound through their system, which would have worked perfectly and brilliantly, all of my sound cues would have been projected to the screen behind me, which would have looked incredibly unprofessional. So we nixed that. I brought my system up, ran that in through the whole theater, and this thing booms. It's great. So yeah, that there'll be a little talk on that, but there's other people talking about sound equipment and stuff like that. The guy that you want to contact, if you've got questions about sound setup, portability, there's two people I'll give you. And the one person isn't going to help you directly, but he's going to connect you with a company that'll help you buy all of the stuff that you need, depending on what your setup is. But if you reach out to Kevin Lapine, he's got a fantastic contact in Detroit, which is where he's from. The company's called Pegasus, but I'll let him tell you all about it and connect you. But the guy that's going to tell you every little nuanced thing, like you will tell Alan Sands, I do these types of shows, I do this type of travel, I have these types of venues, this type of audience, and he'll be like, well, you need these things, and this is how you hook them all up. Or you need those things, and this is how you hook them all up. He will give you the absolute sound blueprint for everything you need to know. Alan Sands, the Sandman, great resource for that and many, many other things.
That's a funny name. That's good for him. Good for him. So Capsman09 mentioned the closest show to me would be Perryville. So this individual is actually close. And we're doing a show in Perryville. I can't keep up.
We don't have a Perryville one booked. We do have one in Northeast February 1st. If Capsman, shoot me an email. If you are able to go to the February 1st show, you've bought enough of the videos from all of my show videos on the Patreon that I will gladly buy you a ticket to that show if you can make it on me. Completely complimentary to you. That's February 1st in Northeast. Yeah, so shoot me an email. I think I've emailed you before, but it's judge@betweentwominds.com with the number 2, just like on the logo down there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my year 1 mix up on the email was I put judge at and then my law office web domain, which was just a disconnect in my own head. Which is why all of that kind of, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it with the Egypt trip anyway. It wouldn't have made any sense. Hopefully everything goes well with the timing on this trial and I get out there this year. I have every intent to do so. But when I get out there, it's probably going to be a game time decision. So Yeah, lots of fun. I am, let's see, 2 days. I'm on an airplane by now, or boarding probably.
Yeah. Oh,
I
you're
don't know.
going for the other stuff too. So how long is this conference? As someone who's ignorant to the dates here.
So it's a 3-day conference, the bulk of the conference. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day stuff. They also have after hours stuff that's optional, but totally worth it. Kevin Lepine's show. And when Kevin does his show and there are hypnotists there, he does a post-show Q&A that he says he'll do Q&A for an hour. He'll do Q&A as long as you ask him questions.
So bring a list.
He is stellar. He is top notch. That he doesn't. There's no clock for him. If you've got a group of people that want to ask him 2 hours worth of questions, he's gonna stick around and answer 2 hours worth of questions. He's so passionate about the industry and the community that he graciously gives his time for that. There is a private event that is free. That it's a show at somebody's house off campus. That's Saturday night. So there's a ton of stuff. As I've said to people, if you want to do Vegas-y, touristy stuff, come extra days. I'd say come early, but it's too late for me to tell you that because you'd be leaving now. Stay late. Stay an extra couple days if you want to see Vegas and do that, because there's no time. Even though the schedule's kind of shifted a few times with some changes and some people that have picked up last minute gigs and opportunities that they just couldn't say no to. That schedule's packed from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. There are also pre-conference and post-conference events that are very specific. If you go to performinghypnosis.com, you'll see the details on those. Those have an added cost. The added cost is different because it's a la carte to add those things. So you pick what you might want to attend and pay for it directly. Those are optional. Those are outside of, but affiliated with the conference. But yeah, lots of good stuff. I would argue that there's not a talk that I have seen, at least not one where I've done an interview, which I've done an interview with at least half the people that are presenting. There's not a talk on that slate that isn't alone worth the value of and the cost of the conference, because the conference is only like $100 and some, I think.
And I guess the big thing too, as you know, another thing to say in compared to like a magic conference is this is designed to get you working.
Yes.
Not designed to teach you the next new trick or the next new cute thing you can do on stage. And I think that's the big one. Like if you're a non-hypnotist interested in, taking yourself out working, this sounds useful. But if you just plan to go there to see what the next hot new trick is, don't go to this.
Yeah, that's not this.
Live or something.
Right. You go to Magi Fest, which also starts Thursday.
Fair. Yeah.
In Columbus. I would be touting the fact that it's going to be so much warmer in Vegas than Columbus, Ohio.
Barely, it seems, but yes.
But I'm telling you to go to the 60 degrees instead of the 20 degrees. So what really, not the biggest selling point, but still better. And, but yeah, if you want the new hottest thing, I'm sure that like Josh J is going to be talking about the new particle system ad nauseum, which if that's your thing, go there. That's awesome. But normally there's something new that's going to drop there. There's always new stuff at Magic Live that gets dropped. That's in August, also in Vegas. And let me tell you, it won't be 60 degrees in Vegas in August. The mind. All right, I'm gonna do a little mentalism right now.
101.
112.
Oh,
I'm gonna give you 112 for August 3rd through 6th. 112 degrees.
Yeah. Never under 100. I'll give you that.
Never. Not in August. Not in July. Not in August. Never under 100. But hey, it's a dry heat. So
they say that.
Yes, they do.
Oh, that's so yeah, if you're looking to be more of a worker and you've realized that you've probably watched enough hypnosis content to confidently say you at least know the fundamentals, this is where you take those fundamentals and get out there and doing it. And if you're interested in what your first year can look like and sound like, and maybe things to do and avoid. This sounds like the talk. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, wherever you're pointing, because it's never right.
That's fair.
Look, I'm going to give one big tip only because from the talk, and I'm only going to do it this way because of the fact that I know that this is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube forever. And you may be watching this video as a brand new hypnotist in 2026 or 2027 or 2028. Number one, after I have done this talk, there's going to be a link. It's not there now, unless you're watching this in one of these future years, but there's going to be a link in the description for you to be able to go and buy this talk directly from me. But I'm going to give you one tip directly out of the talk for brand new hypnotists, because it is one of the biggest impediments that I have seen and observed to people's careers out of any other thing. Because if you spend and waste money somewhere, you can recover from that financially. I'm going to tell you how not to, but if you don't listen to me on that, I will tell you one thing right here, right now, that is pulled directly from the talk. If you have done a training with a reputable trainer, you do not, I repeat, do not need another training from another trainer until you've done, don't do that until you've done at least 10 shows. I guarantee you, you may not feel it, you may not believe it, but if you have trained with somebody reputable, you know everything you need to know to perform your first show. And you will get so much more benefit if you want to go to a subsequent training with somebody else, if you do so after having done 10 shows, because you're going to have that experience of those 10 shows to look back on. You're going to have questions, because when I learned this, I didn't have questions. I didn't know anything. I went into learning hypnosis with no hypnosis background. I read no books. I watched no videos because my trainer told me, don't do any of that shit. I had stage experience. I was doing mentalism for years. So I had that comfort level there. I'm a lawyer in my day job, so I present in front of people all the time. So obviously I had some tools that gave me a little bit of an advantage going into it and a little bit of a head start going into it. But specifically with respect to doing a hypnosis show, because I had no experience, I had no questions. So go do that first training if you haven't already. Or if you have, go do your first show and then go do like 8 or 10 more. Because if you do a second training, it's going to be so much more valuable to you to be like, hey, I had this situation where this happened. Why? That trainer should be able to address that and answer that question very easily. You can't ask it if you haven't done that show and haven't had that weird thing happen.
And if you don't know if you've learned from a reputable source, you go to this conference, you'll probably find out.
You are probably going to find out. Also, if you want to ask me a question like that, judge@betweentwominds.com. Feel free, confidentially. I won't blow you up. I won't blow the person up who trained you, but I probably will be able to validate or invalidate the person. But I'm not going to, it's not going to be public. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you want to shoot me an email saying, hey, I trained with so-and-so, do you really think I'm ready? I'm going to answer your question between you and me.
He doesn't know, he can get the answer, I'm sure.
If I don't know, I will get the answer for you. Absolutely. I'll call the person directly and be like, and ask them a couple questions, and I'll know within moments.
So yeah,
a couple days. Let's do it. See you guys soon. Hopefully some of you watching are coming out there. I'm really looking forward to it because it's a great networking event. It's a great just community. It's so different. Like magic's so damn clicky a lot of times. And there is Zippo of that here. You want to, whoever you consider to be the biggest name at this conference, walk up to them, invite them to lunch. They're probably going to say yes. Even if they already have other plans, they're probably going to invite you to join them. That's what this community is. It's so great.
Oh yeah. I'm
Vegas,
excited
baby.
to hear about it. Yeah, Vegas, literally.
Cool. Anything else?
No, I mean we're trying to keep your talk a little secretive, so just know it's I'm surviving year 1 of stage hypnosis, and that's
right.
enough.
That's right. Sounds good, kids. We'll see you at the PHS. And again, if this is long since the PHS, check the link. You can buy my talk directly. I look forward to seeing all you out there.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Between Two Minds Behind the Scenes podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media under Between Two Minds with the number 2 instead of TWO, or under Enter the Impossible. Thank you, and we hope to see you back for the next episode.